Student, next topic of discussion is the thyroid gland. So remember, thyroid gland, it is a butterfly shaped. So this one is the thyroid gland. It is a butterfly shaped gland that is present on the anterior side of neck in the front of trachea. So this is trachea, and thyroid gland, it is present in the front of neck. The thyroid gland weighs about 25 gram. The weight of thyroid gland is 25 gram, and it has two lobes on each side of trachea. Each of the lobe is cone shaped, 5 centimeter long and 3 centimeter wide. In between the two lobes there is median mass of tissue that is known as the isthmus that connects the two lobes. So it has two lobes. You can see first right lobe and second is the left lobe. Other thing that you have to remember is thyroid is an endocrine gland. Thyroid is an endocrine gland that is present in the midline of neck against the vertebra, that is C5, C6, C7 and T1 vertebra. And it lies in the front of tracheal rings, that is C2, C3 and C4. Thyroid is the first endocrine gland to develop in the body. So which one is the first endocrine gland to develop? It is thyroid. It is placed in C2, C3, C4. It is placed against the C2, C3, C4 tracheal rings. It mainly develops from the thyroglossal duct. The thyroid, it develops from the median downgrowth of the column of cell from the pharyngeal floor between the first and second branchial arch. So it develops from the foramen cecum, that is site of origin of thyroglossal duct between the floor of branchial arch first and second. Here you can see the thyroglossal duct. So it develops from the thyroglossal duct. So that is a endodermal downgrowth of thyroid epithelium from it. So it develops from the thyroglossal duct. In some patients, the remnants of thyroglossal duct is known as pyramidal lobe. So this pyramidal lobe is attached to the hyoid with the help of levator glandulae thyroid. The capsule of thyroid can be true capsule or the false capsule. So coming to the ligaments and fascia. So this one is the ligament of Berry. This structure. So it is a condensed connective tissue. It is a condensed connective tissue that binds the gland firmly to the cricoid cartilage and upper tracheal rings. Other is the pretracheal fascia. It is part of deep cervical fascia to invest the gland. So remember the ligament of Berry and this pretracheal fascia that is responsible for movement of gland with the deglutition. The arterial supply, that is from the superior thyroid artery. So this one is the superior thyroid artery. It is a branch of external carotid artery that enters the upper pole of gland, divides it into anterior and posterior branch, and anastomose with the ascending branch of inferior thyroid artery. Other is the inferior thyroid artery. It is the branch of thyrocervical trunk. So inferior thyroid artery is the branch of thyrocervical trunk. Superior thyroid artery, it is a branch of external carotid artery. The inferior thyroid artery should be ligated well away from the gland to avoid damage the recurrent laryngeal nerve. So the ligation of these arteries on the both sides will cause permanent hypoparathyroidism. Thyroidema artery. So it is a branch of brachiocephalic trunk or direct branch of arch of aorta and enters the lower part of isthmus in about 2 to 3% of cases. The venous drainage that comes through the superior thyroid vein that drains the upper pole and enters the internal jugular vein. The vein will follow the artery. The middle thyroid vein that drains into internal jugular vein, it is short, single. The inferior thyroid vein, they are plexus that drains into innominate vein. They don't follow the artery. And last one is the vein of Kocher. It is rarely found. It is the vein between the present vein. It is in between the middle thyroid vein and inferior thyroid vein. That is the vein of Kocher. The nerve supply, it is from superior laryngeal nerve. The vagus nerve gives rise to superior laryngeal nerve that separates from it at skull base and divides into two branches. The large is the internal laryngeal nerve that is sensory to supraglottic larynx. The smaller one is the external laryngeal nerve that runs close to the superior thyroid vessels and supply the cricothyroid. So this nerve is away from the vessels near the upper pole. Hence, during thyroidectomy, the upper pedicle should be ligated as close as to the thyroid as possible. So second is the recurrent laryngeal nerve. So this is the right recurrent laryngeal nerve and left recurrent nerve. The vagus nerve gives rise to superior laryngeal nerve. The recurrent laryngeal nerve is a branch of vagus nerve that hooks around the ligamentum arteriosum of the left and subclavian artery. So close to the gland, the nerve lies in between the branches of inferior thyroid artery. Coming to the lymphatic drainage, the subcapsular lymphatic plexus drains into prelaryngeal. The subscapular lymphatic plexus drain into pretracheal nodes and prelaryngeal nodes. The chief lymph nodes, they are the middle and lower deep cervical lymph nodes, level 3 and level 4. Coming to the histology, the microscopically, the thyroid, it is divided into lobules. So each lobule has 20 to 40 follicles. So these are the follicles, thyroid follicles. Each follicle is lined by cuboidal epithelial cells. In the center, colloid is present, which is secreted from the epithelial cells in response to the calcitonin. So the thyroglobin stored in the colloid of the follicle. So important for your image-based exam questions. If this question comes, identify this. It is the histology of the thyroid gland. What are the hormones that are secreted by thyroid glands? They are the triiodothyronine and thyroxine. The daily requirement of iodine per day, remember for your exam, daily requirement of iodine is 100 to 200 microgram or 0.1 milligram. Coming to the hormones of thyroid gland. The thyroid gland secretes three hormones: tetraiodothyronine or thyroxine. Second is triiodothyronine, that is T3, and third is calcitonin. The tetraiodothyronine is known as thyroxine. So remember, T4 is known as thyroxine and it forms about 90% of total secretions, whereas T3 it forms only 9 to 10%. Both T4 and T3 are derivative of tyrosine. So these both are derivative of tyrosine. The potency of T3 is 4 times greater than that of T4. The T4 acts for longer duration than T3. The T3 it has less affinity for plasma protein and combine loosely with them so that it is released quickly. T4 has more affinity, so it will bind with plasma protein so strongly, so it will be released slowly. Therefore, the T4 act on target. Therefore, T3 will act on the target immediately, whereas T4 will act on target slowly. Coming to the half-life, T4 has half-life of 7 days and T3 it has half-life of, it is varying between 10 to 24 hours. Thyroxine rate of secretion daily is 80 to 90 microgram per day. T3 daily secretion is 4 to 5 microgram per day. Metabolism of thyroid hormones. The degradation occurs in muscles, livers, and kidney. The synthesis of thyroid hormone takes place in thyroglobin that is present in the follicular cells. So suppose these are the follicular cells. And this is the thyroglobulin. So synthesis of these hormones takes place in thyroglobin. Iodine and tyrosine is essential for formation of the thyroid hormone. So which two components are necessary? Iodine and tyrosine. Iodine is consumed through diet and tyrosine it is also consumed from the diet. So what are the stages of synthesis of thyroid hormone? The stages of synthesis of thyroid hormone are: number one is the thyroglobulin synthesis. Second is iodide trapping. Third, oxidation of iodide. Fourth, transport of iodine into follicular cells. Fifth, iodination of tyrosine. So first comes the thyroglobulin synthesis. The thyroglobulin synthesis is synthesized and discharged into follicle lumen. So the endoplasmic reticulum and Golgi apparatus in the follicular cells of thyroid gland synthesize and secrete thyroglobulin. After synthesis, the thyroglobulin is stored in the follicles. Second is the iodide trapping. The iodide is actively transported from the blood into the follicular cells against the electrochemical gradient. So this process is iodide trapping. So the iodide is transported into the follicular cells along with the sodium by sodium iodide symport pump. Oxidation of iodide. So the iodide must be oxidized to elementary iodine because only iodine is capable of combining with tyrosine to form thyroid molecule. So the iodine enters follicle lumen where it is attached to tyrosine in the colloid, forming diiodotyrosine and monoiodotyrosine. So these iodinated tyrosine are linked together to form T3 and T4. So last is the coupling reaction where they link together to form T3 and T4. In combination with the thyroglobulin, the thyroid hormone can be stored for several months. So the thyroid gland is unique in this, as it is the only endocrine gland that can store its hormones for long period of around 4 months. So when the synthesis of thyroid hormone stops, the sign and symptom of deficiency do not appear for around 4 months. So the hypothalamus regulates the thyroid secretion by controlling the TSH through the thyrotropic releasing hormone, that is TRH hormone. So from the hypothalamus, the TRH is transported through the hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal vessels to the anterior pituitary. So after reaching the pituitary gland, TRH causes the release of thyroid stimulating hormone. When the thyroid hormones are low, they secrete more TRH and TCH that stimulates the thyroid to make more hormones. When the thyroid levels are too high, they secrete less TRH and TSH that reduces the hormone production by the thyroid. The TRH acts on anterior pituitary to release TSH via the adenyl cyclase CAMP system. Coming to the factors that regulate the TSH secretion. Number one, estrogen that increases the TSH secretion. Second, large dose of iodine that decreases the thyroid hormone, thereby decreases the T4 and T3 concentration and increases the TSH secretion. Third is the somatostatin that inhibit the TSH secretion. Fourth, dopa and dopamine. It decreases the TSH secretion. Fifth, glucocorticosteroids that decreases the TSH secretion. So remember, the large dose of iodide decreases the formation and release of thyroid hormone. That is known as Wolff-Chaikoff effect. Wolff-Chaikoff effect. So remember for your exam, Wolff-Chaikoff effect is when the high dose of iodide decreases the formation and release of thyroid hormone. So the thyroxine increases the metabolic activity in most of the body tissue except brain, retina, spleen and lungs. So it increases the BMR by increasing the oxygen consumption of the tissue. So it has a calorigenic action. So it increases the heat production, increases the sodium potassium ATPase activity. Second comes the blood glucose. It increases the blood glucose by increasing glucose GIT absorption. It decreases the blood cholesterol and phospholipid by increasing cholesterol excretion in the bile. Action on the protein metabolism. It increases the synthesis of protein in the cell. So how protein synthesis is increased? It is increased by increasing the translation of RNA, increasing the transcription of DNA to RNA, and increasing the mitochondria activity. So if the thyroid hormone if there is a deficiency of the thyroid hormone, that is seen in myxedema. That is, there is decreased protein anabolism, and when there is excess, that is thyrotoxicosis, that is increased catabolic activity. So thyroxine increases the synthesis of protein. It also causes the catabolism of the protein. Action on the vitamin. Thyroid hormone increases the formation of many enzymes. It increases the requirement for the vitamins. So the vitamin deficiency is possible during the hypersecretion of the thyroxine. Action on the body mechanism. The thyroid hormone increases the heat production. So it increases the basal metabolic rate. So the basal metabolic rate increases from 60 to 100 above the normal. So during hypersecretion of thyroxine, the body temperature increases greatly. That results in excessive sweating. Action on the body weight. Thyroxine is essential for maintaining the body weight. Increase in the thyroxine secretion decreases the body weight and fat storage, whereas decrease in thyroxine secretion increases the body weight because of fat deposition. Increase in thyroxine secretion accelerate the growth of body, and lack of thyroxine will arrest the growth. So thyroxine is more important to promote growth and development of brain during the fetal life and first few years of postnatal life. The deficiency of thyroid hormone during this period may lead to the mental retardation. Coming to the effect on the cardiovascular system. There is increased blood flow and cardiac output. The rate of blood flow in the skin increases because of increased need for heat elimination from the body. There is increased heart rate. There is increased heart strength. There is increased heart strength. The increased enzymatic activity caused by increased thyroid hormone production increases the strength of heart. Also know the thyroxine accelerate thyroxine accelerate the erythropoietic activity and increases blood volume. Action on the GIT motility, it increases the appetite. So it increases the appetite and food intake. It increases the rate of secretion of digestive juices and motility of GIT. Hyperthyroidism often results in diarrhea. Lack of thyroid hormone can cause constipation. Action on respiration, it increases the rate and force of respiration indirectly. Action on the central nervous system. So thyroxine is very important to promote the growth and development of brain during the fetal life and during the first few years of postnatal life. So thyroid deficiency in infants results in abnormal development of synapses and mental retardation. During the hypersecretion of thyroxine, there is excess stimulation of CNS. So the person is likely to have extreme nervousness and may develop psychoneurotic problems like anxiety, excess worries, etc. Whereas hyposecretion may lead to lethargy and excess sleep. Action on the skeletal muscles. Slight increase in thyroid hormone usually make the muscle react with vigor. Excessive hormone quantities, the muscle become weakened because of excess protein catabolism. Lack of thyroid hormone causes the muscle to become sluggish, that is slower movement, and they relax slowly after a contraction. Action on the sexual function. Normal thyroxine level is essential for the normal sexual function. In men, hypothyroidism leads to complete loss of libido, and hyperthyroidism leads to impotency. Whereas in women, hypothyroidism causes menorrhagia and polymenorrhea. The increased secretion of thyroid hormone is known as hyperthyroidism. Increased secretion of thyroid hormone is known as hyperthyroidism. Now, what are the causes of hyperthyroidism? Two causes. Number one is the Graves' disease, and other is thyroid adenoma. Graves' disease and thyroid adenoma. So first comes the Graves' disease. So it is number one, it is a autoimmune disease. Graves' disease is a autoimmune disease, and it is the most common cause of hyperthyroidism. The most common cause of hyperthyroidism is the Graves' disease. So normally TSH combines with the surface receptor of the thyroid cells and cause the synthesis and secretion of thyroid hormones. But in the Graves' disease, the B lymphocytes, they produce autoimmune antibodies. The B cells produce autoimmune antibodies called as thyroid stimulating autoantibodies. So these antibodies will act as TSH, and they will bind with the membrane receptor of the TSH and activating the CAMP system of the thyroid follicle cells. So that results in hypersecretion of the thyroid hormones. Other is the thyroid adenoma. So sometimes a local tumor dwells in the thyroid tissue. It is known as thyroid adenoma, and it secretes large amount of thyroid hormones. So as far as this adenoma remains active, the other part of thyroid gland cannot secrete the hormone. This is because the hormone that is secreted from the adenoma depresses the production of TSH. The solitary nodule can be toxic or it can be non-toxic solitary nodule. Now, based on the radioisotope study, it can be either hot nodule, warm nodule, or cold nodule. So what is hot nodule, warm nodule, and cold nodule? In the hot nodule, that is, these three is based on the radioisotope study. The hot nodule, it is an autonomous toxic nodule. It surrounds the thyroid tissue. So it is inactive, does not take isotope. It is an overactive nodule. Warm nodule, it is normally functioning nodule. The surrounding normal tissue take up the isotope. So surrounding tissue take up isotope. So it is active nodule. Third is the cold nodule. It is non-functioning nodule. It is not taken by the isotope and it is underactive. Other comes the retrosternal goiter. It is defined as greater than 50% goiter that is below the suprasternal notch. So it can be classification, it can be of primary type or secondary type. The primary type is uncommon, whereas secondary type it is common. So clinical types, it can be substernal type, plunging goiter, intrathoracic goiter. So treatment is the surgical removal of the retrosternal goiter. Coming to the sign and symptoms of hyperthyroidism. So number one is the exophthalmos. What is exophthalmos? Exophthalmos is the protrusion of the eyeball. So this protrusion of the eyeball is exophthalmos. So this protrusion of eyeball is exophthalmos. So why there is exophthalmos? This is due to the edematous swelling of the retroorbital tissue, and there are degenerative changes in the extraocular muscles. So the protrusion of eyeballs that stretches and damages the optic nerve, resulting in blindness. So due to the protrusion of eyeball, the eyelid cannot be closed completely while blinking or during sleep. So constant exposure of eyeball to atmosphere causes the dryness of cornea, leading to irritation and infection that finally results in ulceration of cornea, leading to blindness. Other important feature is lid retraction. So what is lid retraction? It is the visibility of sclera between the upper lid and the cornea. So bulging eyes, the pulse rate is increased, indicating tachycardia. Tremors of tongue, when tongue is within the oral cavity, and tremors of outstretched hands are the characteristic features. So tremors, tachycardia, intolerance to heat, as body produces a lot of heat due to increased BMR caused by excess of thyroxine, increased sweating due to vasodilation, decreased body weight due to fat mobilization, muscles weakness, nervousness, polycythemia, exophthalmos tachycardia, systolic hypertension. So these are the features. So features of grave disease, remember the mnemonic female. So F stands for, it has a strong prediction for the females. Second, it has extrathyroidal manifestation. Affect middle or young age. It is a autoimmune mechanism, and L stands for leukocyte antigen, human may contribute. And the last is enlargement of gland is diffuse. Remember these, the mnemonic female. What are pretibial myxedema? So usually bilateral, symmetrical, shiny red, dry skin with coarse hair in the feet and ankles. So it is due to the deposition of mucin. So it is associated with exophthalmos with high level of thyroid stimulating antibodies. So remember pretibial myxedema, it is seen in the Graves' disease. Thyroid acropathy is the clubbing of fingers and toe in the primary thyrotoxicosis. Coming to the various eye signs. Number 1 eye sign that you have to remember is Geoffroy sign. What is Geoffroy sign? It is absence of wrinkling of forehead. So it is absence of wrinkling of forehead. When you ask the patient to look upward, that is the Geoffroy sign. Second sign is bone Grafé, von Grafé sign, or the lid lag sign. So when the patient is asked to look up and down, upper eyelid cannot cope with the speed of movement of the finger because of the lid spasm. Third is the Stellwag sign, that is infrequent blinking and widening of palpebral fissure. So Stellwag sign is infrequent blinking and widening of palpebral fissures. Mobius sign, it is the loss of convergence of eyeball. Dalrymple sign, upper sclera is seen above the limbus, that is Dahl-Rimbus sign. Naff-Zigger sign, you have to stand behind the patient and look at the supraciliary arch by tilting the patient head backward. So in normal case, the eyeball is not seen. In case of exophthalmos, the eyeball is protruded outside. That is Naff-Zigger sign. Other signs are Kocher sign, that is when attempt is made to lift the eye higher, upper eyelid springs up more quickly than the eyebrows. And Roth sign, that is oedema of eyelid, and Gifflord sign, that is difficulty in everting the upper eyelid. So remember the P in case of Graves' disease. Number 1, there is prominent eye. Number 2, there is periorbital oedema. There is proptosis of eyeball. There is palpebral fissure widening and progression to blindness. So important cause of exophthalmos, it could be thyrotoxicosis or primary CNS tumors. That could be meningioma, optic nerve glioma, hemangioma, lymphoma. Third, metastatic tumors, that could be neuroblastoma, etc. Coming to the management of thyrotoxicosis. So what will be the management? Number 1, the routine examinations like the complete blood picture, fasting, postprandial blood sugar estimation, or flexible laryngoscopy can be done. Second, serum T3, T4, TSH, they are measured. So the T3, T4 levels, they are raised, whereas TSH levels, they are low. So what is the normal level of T3? Remember, the normal level of T3 is 1.3 to 1.5 nmol per liter, and T4 is 55 to 150. The thyroid stimulating antibodies are high. Now what will be the treatment of primary thyrotoxicosis? So your aim of the treatment should be to restore the patient to euthyroid state, to reduce the functioning thyroid mass to a very critical level. So number 1 comes to restore the patient to the euthyroid state. So drugs that can be used is potassium perchlorate, that is given in the dosage of 200 to 400 milligram. Propylthiouracil in the dosage form of 200 milligram thrice a day can be given to the patient who develops neutropenia due to carbimazole, propanol that inhibit the peripheral conversion of T4 to T3. So that results in rapid control of tachycardia. It should be continued for 1 week after surgery because it does not interfere with the synthesis of hormone. Remember, iodine containing antiarrhythmic drug amiodarone may worsen the thyrotoxicosis. So which is the safest drug in pregnancy? So propylthiouracil. It is safe in pregnancy. So propylthiouracil, it is safe in pregnancy. We can also use Lugol iodine. So to restore the patient to euthyroid state, we must take following measures. Second is to reduce the functioning thyroid mass to a very critical level. That can be done through number 1 is subtotal thyroidectomy. So in this procedure, the amount of thyroid gland removed is more than the toxic multinodular goiter. However, being a toxic goiter, very little gland should be left behind. So some surgeons advocate leaving thyroid tissue as small as the tip of little fingers on both sides. 6 to 8 grams tissue must be left on both sides of the tracheoesophageal groove. Other is total thyroidectomy. It can be offered to young patients with a very small sized gland. So with the total thyroidectomy, hypothyroidism can occur, but it is easy to treat. Third is the radioiodine therapy. It can be alternative to surgery in case of primary thyrotoxicosis in patient above the 30 years of age. Treatment of secondary thyrotoxicosis. So patient with the secondary thyrotoxicosis may present with the severe cardiac damage. The patient may develop atrial fibrillation and cardiac failure. So in the elderly patient, when the operative risk is unacceptable, radioiodine is given. So the treatment with antithyroid drug is started 48 hours later and continued until the radioiodine had its effect. Now the drugs we discussed that are given, number 1 is the carbimazole. So what is the mode of carbimazole? So it blocks the oxidation of iodide to iodine. So it blocks the oxidation and coupling reaction, thus reducing T3, T4 level. The dosage of carbimazole is 10 milligram. And the side effect includes the dangerous agranulocytosis. Lugol's iodine, it can be given to reduce the vascularity of gland before the surgery. In case of solitary toxic nodule, the treatment, it is not under the control of TSH. The control of toxicity is in usual manner. We can give carbimazole, propanozole. The whole nodule take up isotope, whereas rest of glands does not. The treatment is either by hemithyroidectomy or radioactive iodine therapy. So what is the contraindication of radioiodine therapy? Absolute contraindication is pregnancy. Remember, conception must be avoided for period of 4 months after the radioiodine therapy. There is no restriction of age and gender. However, it is preferred in children only after completion of growth and in adult after family is complete. Coming to the classification of goiter, it can be non-toxic, toxic, neoplasm, inflammatory or rare type. Then in non-toxic comes the diffuse, multinodular, nodule recurrent. In toxic type, diffuse, multinodular, nodule recurrent type. In neoplasm, there are 4 types: papillary, medullary, follicular, anaplastic. And in inflammatory type, it's Riedel, Hashimoto, decurvian. And on rare type, infectious amyloidosis, cyst or abscess. So the malignant tumors of thyroid, they can be either papillary, medullary, follicular, etc. So let us discuss them. The first comes the papillary carcinoma. It can be due to irradiation to neck during the childhood. It can be a complication of Hashimoto thyroiditis or due to associated mutation. So remember for your exam, the papillary carcinoma thyroid, it is made up of colloid filled follicles with papillary projections. So in some cases, calcified lesions are found that are known as Samoma bodies. So remember for your MCQ point that Soma bodies, they are seen in which type? They are seen in the papillary carcinoma of the thyroid. So these are the diagnostic of papillary carcinoma of thyroid. The characteristic pale empty nuclei are present, which is known as orphan Annie I nuclei. So Sama bodies and orphan I nuclei in the papillary type. It generally affects the young females. It can be present as solitary nodule. So remember the 7C: calcification, cystic changes, cuboidal pale cells with grooving, crowded nuclei, cartoon character, that is orphan I nuclei, and calcified deposit, that is the Sama bodies. So remember, most common histological type of thyroid cancer is papillary carcinoma. It's about 60 to 65%. So most common is papillary type. It is spread by lymphatic spread. So papillary carcinoma spread by lymphatic spread. Samoma bodies are diagnostic of papillary carcinoma. Most common treatment is total thyroidectomy. So this chart represents the treatment for papillary carcinoma of thyroid. Total thyroidectomy with the central neck dissection is the treatment for choice. Radioiodine could be given. Next comes the follicular carcinoma. So remember the follicular carcinoma, it constitutes the 17% of the cases. Out of these, 20% are malignant and 80% are benign. The follicular carcinoma usually arises in the multinodular goiter in case of endemic goiter. So remember the papillary carcinoma, it has incidence of 60 to 65%. Follicular is 15 to 20%. Anaplastic is 10 to 12%, whereas medullary is 5 to 10%. Follicular carcinoma, it can present as a solitary nodule. The diagnosis is considered after ultrasound scan that reveals some of malignancy, that is microcalcification. So peak age for follicular carcinoma is 40 years. So remember, in case of long-standing multinodular goiter, if the goiter is rapidly growing or has restricted mobility, follicular carcinoma can be considered. So what are the investigation? Routine investigation, ultrasound scan, FNAC of the nodule. Remember, the FNAC cannot differentiate a follicular adenoma from the follicular carcinoma. Treatment consists of total thyroidectomy. After total thyroidectomy, a whole body scan is done to look for metastasis in the bone. A single secondary that can be treated by oral radioiodine therapy. Hurthle cell carcinoma. It is a variant of follicular carcinoma. So remember, Hurthle cell carcinoma is a variant of follicular carcinoma. So these tumors are defined by presence of more than 75% of the follicular cells having oncocytic features. So these cells have oncocytic features. They secrete thyroglobin. So they secrete thyroglobin. The treatment is total thyroidectomy. In case when the lymph nodes are enlarged, modified radial neck dissection is done. So remember, Hurthle cell carcinoma, it is more aggressive follicular carcinoma. It has 75% malignant cells, more chances of lymphatic spread, more chances of mortality. Next comes the anaplastic carcinoma. So remember, the most rapid growing thyroid malignancy is anaplastic carcinoma. It is common in elderly women around 60 to 70 years of age. Berry sign is positive. What is that? The infiltration of the carotid sheath is the Berry sign. So in such case, the common carotid artery pulsation will not be palpable. So there is early fixicity. So diagnosis that is established by FNAC. So due to the gross infiltration into the vital structures in the neck, such as common carotid artery and trachea, the resectability rate is low. So the post-operative radiotherapy is given as palliative treatment. So what is the treatment? Is the post-operative radiotherapy. Next comes the medullary carcinoma. So remember the medullary carcinoma, they arise from the parafollicular C cells that are derived from ultimobranchial body and not from the thyroid follicles. So these tumors present in two different ways. Sporadic form, that is common, seen in 80 to 90%, and family variety that present as a part of multiple endocrine neoplasia. So multiple endocrine neoplasia is seen in medullary carcinoma of the thyroid. When it is associated with the mucocutaneous neuroma, so when it is associated with the mucocutaneous neuroma involving the lip, tongue, eyelid, then it is known as Sippel syndrome. So remember the Sippel syndrome for your exam. Also, it has a characteristic of amyloid stroma. So which tumor has characteristic of amyloid stroma? It is medullary carcinoma. So what are the hormones that are produced by medullary carcinoma of thyroid? So remember for your exam, calcitonin hormone is produced by medullary carcinoma of thyroid, prostaglandin and serotonin. Prostaglandin and serotonin, they are also produced. So spread, remember the medullary carcinoma spread. The medullary carcinoma, it spreads by both lymphatic and by blood. So medullary carcinoma, it spreads by both lymphatic and blood. So treatment is total thyroidectomy with radial neck dissection. So before proceeding with the surgery, we have to look for the associated pheocytochroma. The lymph nodes, they are treated by radial block dissection. So if there are multiple secondaries in the bone, oral iodine has no role because this tumor does not arise from the thyroid cells. Only palliative radiotherapy can be given. So remember, this tumor is not TSH dependent and it will not take up radioactive iodine. So radial neck dissection for the lymph node metastasis should be done. So this table represents the summary of the malignant tumor of the thyroid gland. So remember, the papillary etiology is irradiation, follicular endemic goiter. Papillary is most common, 60%. It is seen in 20 to 40 years of age, follicular 30 to 50. Thyroid swelling with lymph node metastasis is seen in papillary and follicular tumor. Orphan eye, nuclei and SAMO bodies, they are characteristic feature of papillary tumor. Papillary spreads by lymphatic, follicular by blood whereas anaplastic by local infiltration. Investigation: FNAC is treatment of choice and frozen section in the follicular and FNAC and incisional biopsy in the medullary. The treatment for the papillary tumor is near total or total thyroidectomy. For follicular, it is near total thyroidectomy, whereas for anaplastic, the treatment is isthmusectomy, and for medullary, it is total thyroidectomy.
So remember for your exam, most common surgical disease of thyroid gland, it is solitary nodule. So most common disease of thyroid gland, it is solitary nodule. Most of the thyroid disease begins at solitary nodule. Most common investigation of solitary nodule is ultrasonography. Most common cause of solitary nodule is multinodular goiter. Most common cause of solitary nodule in male is malignancy. Most common investigation of choice for tissue diagnosis, it is FNAC. Other things that are important are most common surgical disease of thyroid gland, it is solitary thyroid nodule. Most common site of thyroid nodule, it is at the junction of isthmus at the lobe. Most common drug used for thyrotoxicosis is carbimazole. Most common used non-invasive investigation for thyroid disease is ultrasonogram. Most common done surgery for well-differentiated carcinoma thyroid is total thyroidectomy. Most common thyroid cancer in children is papillary carcinoma of the thyroid. Most common thyroid cancer following exposure to external radiation is the papillary carcinoma of the thyroid. Most common non-invasive investigation in the evaluation of solitary nodule is ultrasonography. Most diagnostic feature of medullary carcinoma thyroid is amyloid stroma. Most diagnostic feature of papillary carcinoma thyroid is presence of psammoma bodies. Most diagnostic feature of Hashimoto thyroiditis is Ashkenazi cells. Most diagnostic investigation of lingual thyroid, it is 99 technetium scan. Most diagnostic feature of anaplastic carcinoma is early fixicity, and most diagnostic feature of grave disease is exophthalmos.
Other is granulomatous thyroiditis. Granulomatous thyroiditis. It is also known as, subacute thyroiditis. So granulomatous thyroiditis, other name is subacute thyroiditis or de Quervain disease. It occurs due to the viral infection. It usually follows the sore throat. Patient presents with fever, body ache, painful enlargement of the thyroid gland. So patient present with the painful enlargement of the thyroid gland. The ESR is increased and majority of patient responds to the conservative treatment in the form of analgesic and short course of prednisolone. Other important term is renal thyroiditis. It is
a very rare cause of goiter which is supposed to be collagen disorder. So it is a rare form of that is due to the collagen disorder. It is associated with mediastinal fibrosis, retroperitoneal fibrosis, involvement of trachea, esophagus, internal jugular vein, results in dysphagia and dyspnea. So treatment with thyroxine may be necessary to treat hypothyroidism.